What's going on, folks, and welcome back to Stu's Garage. I've been on a little bit of an involuntary break just because I'm kind of at a standstill here as far as the car goes. Still no motor for reasons beyond my control. I have been keeping myself occupied in the garage by doing small stupid stuff like painting my transmission gold. Aside from wasting gold paint, I've also reconstructed my core support partially, and we're gonna finish up with that today. So as you can see down here on the bottom, I've replaced the lower beam with a much thicker piece of steel. This is basically going to allow me to jack the car from underneath the front of the car instead of pushing my jack all the way underneath to the K-member, which you see back there. And it's really actually difficult to do with the car, with the front bumper on and everything. And plus my new front setup is going to be a little bit different. I'm not actually going to be able to reach that easily with the new front end setup that's coming. So what this bar is going to allow me to do is, like I said, jack from underneath the front bumper in order to at least get the car up a little bit to where I can move the jack elsewhere. It's also going to serve as a mounting point for a splitter, for a front end splitter. And pretty much the way I did this is just took some very careful measurements. I cut out the existing core support lower, which really, that thing was in bad shape. It was bent up because the car had previously been in an accident. And matter of fact, it's laying over here. Let's just go take a look at it. So here's the old K-member, and that's going to the scrap yard today. But this is basically the condition of the old core support. It's really flimsy, thin metal. It's all bent up. It's just really disgusting looking. So, you know, this thing looks like it came off the Titanic. So I'm glad to have that off of the car and replaced with something that's much beefier. So today what we're going to be doing is replacing the top section of the core support. And that was really my goal behind this whole core support rebuild anyways. This top section right here actually makes swapping the engine, removing the engine, whatever you want to call it, more difficult because you have to raise the engine up so high. Without that beam in there, you can pretty much just slide the motor in from the front. It makes it a lot easier and a lot less sketchy. So, you know, basically to get that piece out of here, you just want to carefully kick. And that'll come out like so. And then you have access there. So we're gonna rebuild a new portion to go right here, and that's gonna be removable. I know a lot of you guys get emotional when you see me start cutting on the car and things like that, and you like to tell me that I'm ruining the unibody. That's not necessarily the case, especially for this. This is your frame of the vehicle here, and as you can see, your frame rail on this side, which is not as easy to see. But your structural support of the chassis actually ends at your shock towers. So anything forward of the shock towers is supported by the frame. It doesn't support the frame. It is part of the frame, but it's not structural to the chassis. All of this stuff up here is just to support things like your sway bar here, which a lot of people eliminate. I will still be using the sway bar, so it would not benefit me to remove this section. You know, all of this supports the bumper. Of course, your core support, which is meant to support your radiator, things like that. But cutting on this stuff does not hurt the chassis. As a matter of fact, people with tube front cars actually cut off everything in front of the shock towers because your chassis basically ends, you know, at your shock towers. So we're just going to be beefing it up, and that's going to be that. So I've got this pile of scrap metal here, and we're going to make some things happen with it. So I haven't really done any measuring yet, but what I'm thinking I'm going to do is take two pieces of this conduit that we have right here. I believe this is just like wiring conduit. And I'm going to do two parallel sections across the front end, just like that. I think it's going to look cooler, especially when it's all painted up and everything. And I'm going to make it so that it bolts in right on the sides right there. So, you know, there's not really a whole lot for me to talk about during this. So I think I'm just going to set the camera up, and you guys can kind of watch and see me put this thing together. check this out. I don't know if you can see it. Here we go. I've never seen this before welding. It looks like smoke, but it's not. Really weird. Any of you guys who are welding geniuses, if you ever see anything like that, definitely let me know what you think it is. I can't touch it. It's like dodging out of my fingers. Alright, so now I've got the main structure of the new core support piece in place. This flat piece down here is basically just to hold it together in the meantime. It's also going to provide a place for me to build off of for my latch mount setup that I got here for the hood latch. Next up, what I'm going to do is actually build some tabs that's going to help it to line up to center itself here and here. It's also going to create a flat surface for me to actually bolt something to, because like I said, this is going to be holding down the hood. I want that to be mounted solidly in place. Alright, so I've got two tabs. Basically they look like that. They're going to slide in like so, and this is basically going to be the position of this. So when it's all said and done, I'll be drilling a hole here to mount that to, or actually probably making a better plate, beefing that up a little bit so it'll have a better spot to mount to. But I have the same thing on this side, and we're going to go ahead and tack weld these pieces in place and then go back and fully weld them on. Alright folks, so at this point things are shaping up pretty nicely. It's fitting in there pretty solid. I can knock it out. I went ahead and welded a plate to the bottom on each side. That's basically going to allow me to drill through and actually create a threaded mount, which we're getting ready to do now. And that way I'll be able to bolt this thing in. So it's a pretty tight fit. I have to use both hands to put it back in. So next what we're going to do is we're going to drill holes for the bolts, and then we're going to create the threaded mount. Alright, so now we've got some nice bolt holes in this thing, and I can just drop the bolt straight down through there. I do think I need to do some reinforcements up top. I really would like to have done 2 bolts, but just based on the space that I'm working with, one should do it. It should be fine with one. The bolt's sticking down there through the bottom. So now we're going to take this back to the bench and make the threads. Alright, so what we have here is the underside of the mount. I went ahead and put the bolt and the nut on there, and what I'm going to do is very carefully tack that nut into place, and the bolt should be able to thread in and out easily in the position that it's in. You got to be careful when you do this, especially with these crude tools. I have done this in the past on a much larger piece, which should have been much easier, and it was a disaster. So I don't know, I'm just gonna try it again. Hopefully it works and it comes out a little bit nicer. Alright, we got this thing successfully welded up. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's functional, and as you can see, the bolt is able to turn out. So the piece itself is actually finished. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some paint and some clear on it so that it matches the rest of the engine bay. Okay, I actually got ahead of myself a little bit throwing paint on this thing. I forgot about the hood latch. So in order to line that up, what we're going to do is actually go ahead and lower the hood. Alright, so as you can see, the hood is down, and I'm not even sure how this hood latch actually works, but what I'm going to try to do is take this and line this up to the hook that it connects to, and that's going to give me an idea of the position that it needs to be on that bar. Alright, so I went ahead and mocked up the hood latch, and from what I can see, it's actually going to fall dead on right there, and I went ahead and marked that out. Now rather than actually building a mount off of there for this, what I'm actually going to do is drill straight through these holes, And I'm gonna do the same thing that you saw me do over here. In this little gap here, I'm just going to put a nut here and a nut here. And that's basically, they're gonna sit there. I'm gonna tack those in, and those will be the mounting points. So I can screw that in, and it'll actually have a strong, solid mounting point. All right, I've got the nuts and bolts all set, so same as before, weld these things in place, tack them, pull the bolts out. This one's gonna be a little bit more difficult because I can actually see the threads through that crack. My contingency plan is if these don't come out, I'm just gonna put a lot of weld and weld the whole thing together and leave these as studs and throw another nut on the end to put that mount on. So either way it's gonna work. All right folks, check it out. I was successful on both of them. So next I'm gonna chop these screws down because they're a little bit too long, and we're gonna go ahead and mount everything up and test fit everything and just make sure that the hood actually closes the way it's supposed to. All right, moment of truth. We're gonna close the hood and see if it latches the way it's supposed to. It's actually perfect. It's doing just exactly what it's supposed to do. All right, folks, so it's all taken back apart. I went ahead and threw some paint on there to match the engine bay, and all that's left for me now is to go ahead and throw some clear on it. So that's about it, folks. So there's an update on the build. Hopefully the motor's coming soon, and we'll be putting that back together and getting the car on the road. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. Thanks for watching and following along. Catch you guys next time.